Hello, welcome to our English at Leeds Trinity podcast. It's a podcast made by students and staff at Leeds Trinity University, celebrating all different topics that we find interesting that can be related in any way to the subject of English. That can be language, literature, creative writing, other languages, history. I'm Richard Storer. I'm a lecturer in English at Leeds Trinity. We're working our way through the alphabet with the episodes of this podcast, with at least one episode for each letter of the alphabet and something interesting that begins with that letter. We said right from the beginning that we were interested in accent, and later on we also had an episode about dialect. Now we reached the letter G, and we have the opportunity to think about a form of speech in English that, as an accent, it's often kind of rated as the one that people most like listening to, or it's always high up in the surveys of that. As a dialect, it has lots of interesting features and distinctive features still, and is even, might say, becoming in recent years more glamorous. So welcome to our episode. G is for Geordie. And I'm very pleased that I'm joined by three contributors, and I'm going to introduce them one by one. First, sometimes it's welcome back, and sometimes welcome for the first time. So first of all, welcome back to Ben.
Hello.
So I'd also like to welcome back Lucy, who was in our C is for Creative Writing episode.
I'll read.
And then I'm very pleased to be able to welcome for the first time, hope not the last time or only time, my colleague who's a lecturer in linguistics, Dr. Rod Hermiston.
Hello.
Thank you all very much for being here for this episode. And I think the first thing we should do is just kind of establish our credentials for talking about Geordie. And I will start by saying I've got none. I haven't got any kind of family or personal connection really with Newcastle, apart from the research that I've done for this episode. But I'm glad to say each of you have something a bit more to put on the table. So maybe Ben, I'll just start with you.
My connection extends to my mum, who spent a majority of her teen years growing up in Newcastle, specifically Whitley Bear. And that's about it. So I grew up in a household where she would occasionally speak in either a Geordie accent or use dialect terms to address me and my brother.
Right. So it's been part of the environment.
Yeah.
And how about you, Lucy?
Yeah, so mine also comes from my mum. So my mum was born and raised in Gosforth in Newcastle, a proper Geordie. And my dad is a Mackem, which is the dialect for the Sunderland sort of area. Right.
You know, that was a new one on me when you told me that.
Yeah.
My sense of the geography isn't quite as... It's getting better, obviously. But the separate word for if you come from Sunderland.
Yes.
Right. Okay. We might come back to that.
Yeah,
later.
Definitely.
And how about you, Rod?
I was born on the banks of the River Tyne in a town called Hexham, and I lived in a village 6 miles to the west of Newcastle all of my childhood, and so I grew up in Newcastle and always regarded myself as a Geordie.
Well, that brings me to my first question in a way. I remember actually, Lucy, when I asked you if you would take part in this episode, I said, we're going to be on G is for Geordie. And I suddenly thought, I had to check with you, that's not an offensive term.
No.
So it's something that everyone who comes from that region is ready to own.
I think it depends geographically where you are from. I mean, I'd definitely say Rod is more Geordie than me, despite, my mum being from the Newcastle area. But I'm kind of a mix between Mackem and Geordie.
Yeah.
So it does depend on what football team you support, whether you can claim to be a Geordie or not.
I see. So if you claim to be a Geordie, that more or less kind of commits you to supporting
Newcastle.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that. Okay, right. So it's not a term that people would want to disown.
No.
It's a kind of positive.
Absolutely.
Do you feel like, Rod, that it has got a kind of definite geographical limit?
I think I always grew up, and the folk belief was that you had to be born on the banks of the Tyne
Right.
to be a Geordie. I certainly think that there's a strong belief in people from Newcastle that they are perhaps the true Geordies. But it's certainly been argued as well that, Geordiness covers Northumberland and Durham. So it's certainly wider. Newcastle used to be the county town of Northumberland, I believe, anyway.
Right. So that brings us to the question really of where this word comes from. And I mean, I was looking up in the OED, I was noticing that it often does refer to Newcastle, but it often follows that with the expression or the region around there, which is kind of open, so it could include all the places that we've mentioned. And I think from the point of view of a non-Geordie, you do tend to think of the whole of the northeast as that, and then it's surprising to think that it's narrowed down just to the main city. But the origin of it, as far as I could tell, that there's not a very clear story. Is that what you think, Rod?
Well, ultimately, I think it's a derivation of the word George. It's a form of the word George, but then it becomes a bit murky. I've seen at least 6 kind of definitions of or ideas of where it might come from, and I'll probably forget all 6. But it has variously been said to refer to a guinea, as in the coin, a lamp that was used down the pit, Geordie lamp. The actual dialect itself, it has been claimed to refer to coal miners as well, because so many of them were called George or Geordie. And also loyalists to, now have I got the royal house correct here, the Hanoverians at some time. Various suggestions. I think it's kind of perhaps the strongest contender simply that, the name Geordie as a form of George just became so popular in the area that whether outsiders or insiders started to use it, they began to just use the term Geordie to refer to people from the area. But it wasn't really common in the 19th century. I did a PhD on Tyneside dialect songs, and I could only find one example in an actual song where the word Geordie was used to refer to a group of people, and that was in a song called "The Sandgate Lass" by a singer called Ned Corvin, who sang. And the lyric was, "Without a young man as a poor hoody-gody, for I'll never be able to make a young Geordie." Which was, without a young man, I'm a poor hurdy-gurdy, for I'll never be able to make a young Geordie. And so that was referring to a group, but it really wasn't used much to refer to people from the area, even at the beginning of the 20th century. So it seems to have come in and gained currency a bit later than that.
It's definitely got a lot of currency now, hasn't it?
Yes.
And so that sort of leads us to the next question I was going to say. Before we start thinking about the kind of anatomy of Geordie as an accent and as a dialect, the way in which it's kind of distinctive, which we can already hear in what you're saying, but we want to get down to it a bit more. But I thought we might just think about ways in which perhaps just collect together a number of names of people who sort of represent, if you like, the public profile of Geordie now or in recent decades. Famous Geordies who have sort of perhaps fixed in the public mind what it sounds like and all the kind of things about identity which kind of tend to go with a strong sense of dialect. So we're each going to just say who comes to mind as famous Geordies and see how we get on. Ben, you were going to start us off.
So The first one that came to my mind initially was Sarah Millican, who is a comedian. I've only ever really seen her in 8 out of 10 Cats or something like that, but she's got a really, really strong Geordie accent.
Yes, she does.
And then after doing a little bit of research into it, the other one that I found really interesting, because I would have never thought he was a Geordie, is Sting from The Police. And that one really caught me off guard. As someone who obviously like sings in an American accent, you would not be able to tell at all.
Yes, that's interesting. Is perhaps he's never. I don't know if when he speaks with that strong accent.
I mean, his full name is kind of a giveaway that he's a bit British or from Britain, because his full name is Gordon Matthew Thomas Sumner,
right?
Which is obviously
Yeah. I knew he was British, but I wouldn't have particularly known that. Did you all know that?
I knew that he was a Geordie. I think his father worked in the shipyards.
Right.
You're wrong, actually. He did actually have some songs where he sang in a bit of a Geordie accent.
Oh, right.
And their names elude me.
We could research that later. Yes. That's a follow-up for someone else. How about you, Lucy?
Yeah, so the first person that came to my mind was Cheryl Cole. She grew up in, I think, Walker and Heaton.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, she's distinctively very Geordie. You know, I think quite unapologetically, really.
Yeah.
And I do think when she sings, there's a couple of different phrases that has that Geordie rhythm.
She was the person I was thinking of particularly when I said it's become a bit more glamorous.
Yeah.
And that's the point I've made. Well, I'm glad you mentioned her, because I don't like to let any chance to mention Girls Aloud go by at Leeds Trinity without mentioning that, of course, one of the other members of Girls Aloud was a student of English at Leeds Trinity before she got the break to go into Girls Aloud. And that was Kimberly. But then Cheryl perhaps is the highest profile of all the members of that group, isn't she? And I was just looking at a book that I came across in the course of researching this. It's an academic book from about 5 years ago, Celebrity Accents and Public Identity Construction, Analysing Geordie Stylisations, which is a sort of study of how celebrities have used their Geordie accent as a way of kind of building their identity in the media, or sometimes doing it. Sometimes they mention Sting as well, as he sometimes has done it, sometimes not. Cheryl has particularly done it. And then it also mentions Vicky Patterson from lots of different things now. Yeah. She was in The Jungle, wasn't she?
Yeah, and Geordie Shaw.
Geordie Shaw, yeah. And which apparently is in its 24th series. So
sounds about right.
So that's kind of. But what it's saying there is that that's people sort of finding their Geordie accent rather than something that they want to kind of play down. It's something that actually they want to develop.
Yeah.
And I think it argues that in the case of Vicky Patterson particularly, she even sort of starts developing new ways of saying things that become Geordie.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that I found interesting, that it's reached the level of an academic book. This is by an Italian linguist. So it's something that's actually considered an interesting study in itself. So Cheryl, definitely. And did you have another one?
Yeah, Sam Fender. I'm sure any young folk listening will know who that is. Yeah, he's a brilliant singer from North Shields.
Right.
He can, fill stadiums, and he's very patriotic to being from, the Newcastle area. So,
Right. You were saying that is a particular sort of thing that is noticeable at his gigs.
Oh, yeah, everybody wears the Newcastle strip.
Right.
Newcastle flags are all waving. Yeah.
Right.
It makes you feel very proud to be from the North.
I see. So it's kind of like cheerleader for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, that's that we've got music there and we've got comedy. How about you, Rod?
Alan Shearer, obviously the former Newcastle United striker, and he's a supporter of Newcastle United, and as am I, unfortunately. And Also Ant and Dec, of course.
Yes, yes,
Who began, I think, on Biker Grove.
yes,
There.
yes.
But now, of course, do the Saturday evening programs and various others.
Yes. I mean, and they're extremely popular, aren't they? There's some award that they've won like 20 times or something, isn't there?
I think that there may be something to do with the fact that Geordie, it very often gets rated highly when people do surveys or people's attitudes to accents. It gets rated quite highly on warmth.
Right.
And that may be why it's has value as a celebrity accent, particularly in popular entertainment.
Yeah. That's an interesting example of how something goes from being strictly linguistic to being about character, personality, identity, doesn't it? So I was going to add, again, in the music world, Jimmy Nail, who perhaps is, I don't know how well known he is now, but he kind of broke through with that series Auf Wiedersehen Pet, which had 3 Geordies as his main characters. And then he had a career as a singer, and that song, Big River, is very evocative of sort of civic pride, particularly associated with shipbuilding. I was thinking also that amongst this list, it's sort of sporting personalities, entertainers. It's harder to think of politicians. You mentioned Alan Milburn when we were talking earlier, Rod. And the one that I've just become aware of is Bridget Phillipson, who is the Education Secretary in the new Labour government. And although she's not a celebrity, I would say perhaps, people will all have seen her if you stayed up at all to watch the election on the night. Hers was the very first result. So if you did watch any of it, you will have seen her give her acceptance speech. And that is quite interesting. And of course, you can find it again online. It is quite interesting to listen to that and to hear a bit of a Geordie accent there. I think she comes from Washington, which is a town somewhere near.
Yes.
Yeah, and she's got a lot of family connections there. So there's a whole load of people there who are giving us that sort of idea of Geordie. As you mentioned, Rod, maybe that kind of idea of warmth, humour and likeability. I thought we could move on now to think about Geordie as a dialect, particularly. Now, when we were doing our Dias for Dialect episode before, we were thinking about Yorkshire and also Salford dialect. We were trying to just keep the distinctions between dialect and accent, that in fact there's other things to a dialect besides the accent. So we will come to the accent in a minute, but for the minute we'll think about things like different words, different ways of forming words, and so on. Now, it really struck me as I was looking into this that Geordie is now a dialect which has really got a kind of shop front, if you like. It's a sort of brand. You can buy T-shirts, tea towels, mugs. You can look up endless websites with the lists. If you go to the University of Northumbria or Newcastle, there'll be a page there. It says, these are the words you need to know, and so on. So there's a lot of sort of public knowledge of Geordie words available. And I thought it would be interesting to actually try out some of these on you, Rod and Lucy, to see, if you know what they are, which I'm sure in most cases you will, but also if you kind of, have any thoughts on, are they words that lots of people use, or actually, you'd be lucky if you heard that these days. So we're going to take it in turns, Ben and I, to try you out with some Geordie words and see if you kind of pass this Geordie test. If you don't, it shows that the test is wrong, not that you're not wrong. Okay, so where you go, Ben? What's your first one?
So the first one on my list is one that again is from like my childhood with my mum, but she used to call them stottie cakes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Can you give me some like context? Because I know what it means in my head, but that's only from what my mum called it. But does it mean something else actually in Newcastle?
Not really. I think they are what they are, really. I mean, a stottie cake is kind of a round bread.
Mhm.
That's got, I think it's got one hole poked in the middle, right, Rod?
Yeah, it might. I think the point is it's big. It's not
Yeah.
just a sort of. We're not talking about a bread bun here
Mhm.
that you put a burger in. We're talking about something that's almost as wide as a pizza,
Yeah.
but is thick.
Right.
And so if you get a stottie sandwich, what you get is a segment of the stottie cake, and then cut down, cut in half, as you would with a sandwich, and then the filling is put in there.
Yeah. You can get them in Greg's. up
Right.
in the
Right. So you could go in there
Absolutely.
and say, could I have a stottie cake?
In the northeast, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that another one that kind of goes hand in hand with that is talking about like the fillings. It was like a peas pudding,
Oh, yeah.
which you can't like. I mean, you don't seem to really get it a lot around here, but apparently it's massive, like up in the northeast.
Oh, yeah. Every time I go up home and come back to Leeds, I always have tubs of peas pudding. It's yellow split peas that have been mashed really with lots of salt. Absolutely delicious. It sounds horrible. It does. It sounds very wartime.
It's a textural nightmare, honestly, but it does taste pretty good.
It is lovely.
Is it kind of, is it then a bit like mushy peas? Not that I really like those. But...
Well, it's orange though.
Yeah.
Orangey yellow, isn't it?
The texture is more probably like mashed potato. If I had
Yeah,
to
like a puree.
yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. I always make my southern friends try it when they come over, and I think they begrudge saying they like it. But you can get it in tins now. I know Headingley Sainsbury's sell a...
Yeah, it's been me nostalgic because I haven't had peas
pudding.
for ages.
Right. I mean, I know there's some peas pudding, hot peas pudding. I didn't realise it was a kind of
Yeah.
northeastern thing.
Yeah, it's a delicacy.
What's your next one, Ben?
My next one was a spelk. Either of you know what a spelk is?
Is that to hit something?
No.
Spelk? Oh, I don't know.
Stoke.
Spelk.
Oh, spelk. Sorry.
Spelk.
Sorry. Oh yeah, spelk. It's a splinter.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna say I think me and you've spoken about this before, Rod, because my mum called it a spelk, and I asked you what it meant.
Yeah. And so the splinter that you get in your finger, and then your mother takes great pleasure in getting gouging it out.
Does that come back to you now?
Yeah, now that Rod said it.
Yeah, you know it as spelk.
Spelk.
Right. Because I've heard people around here call it a spell, which was equally unknown to me. But spelk is...
But it's like interesting through like looking it up, compared to all the other terms that we've got on our list. This one seems to date back the furthest, even to Old English.
Oh.
So I wonder whether it's just stuck there, but like as people have dispersed, it's lost its meaning elsewhere. And
Well, that tends to be the way that people sort of think of dialect forms, isn't it? That it's something that probably was once much more widespread, and then it's gradually kind of disappeared from certain places.
Yeah.
But it's for whatever reason, it's sort of lingered on but undergone some sort of changes.
Well, what would you call it, Richard?
A splinter.
A splinter.
Yeah, that's the only word I've got for it. A splinter. I don't. And so I was very surprised that spell, because to me spell is got lots of other connotations. Spelling and magic spell. So I was not familiar with that at all.
Yeah.
My next one is canny.
Oh, that's my favourite one.
Yes.
Well, it has lots of meanings, really. You can use it for different contexts, I suppose. Yeah, I think generally canny means nice or good,
Right.
but it can be a quantity. And so you can say I was canny hot, which means I was very hot.
Right. So it's like an intensifier.
Yeah.
In a sense.
It's canny for.
Right.
Canny distance.
Yeah.
Right.
But you wouldn't say she was canny. You would just say she was canny.
And it's also mean careful as well, which is close out of the Scottish meaning of canny.
Yeah.
Canny on, man. Meaning careful.
Right. Right. Would you use that? Would you see that as a Geordie?
Yeah.
Right.
It's a sort of, it's sort of, it just gets used in various contexts. But it's got a long history of being very sort of regarded affectionately.
Yes.
Right.
When I was doing my research on Geordie, back at the end of the 19th century, early 20th century, at English Dialect Society, they were creating lots of glossaries or dictionaries, and we're talking really thick books. And Heslop, who did Northumberland words, he dedicated 2 pages to the word canny, saying, no word is more. It's the Geordie word par excellence, basically.
Right.
Nothing expresses the feeling of homeliness and kindness.
Right.
Yeah, very true. It's always the one I forget that people outside of the Northeast don't know.
Yeah.
So I'll just drop it in sentences and they say, what are you talking about?
Because looking at it in the OED, it is quite interesting that it does have a range of other uses which are not specific to the Geordie use, where it's more kind of like being, like you say, careful or even a bit cunning, a bit sly. So it's bordering on slightly negative, and then you get to its use in Geordie, and it's all much more kind of positive and everything, isn't it? So that again is that kind of likability about that, I think, which is quite interesting. That brings me on to the one I was going to ask you about, which is what's very, very well known association with Geordie is pet.
Yeah.
As a term of address and endearment. But I was wondering, with that, is that specifically male, female, female, male, or is it a kind of like people say about the word love in Sheffield, anyone can use it to anybody, or is it more kind of gendered?
Depends where you go, really, or who you're talking.
Right.
I'd say it's definitely, I wouldn't say it's gendered. Anyone can call anyone pet or be.
So a man might call another man pet?
No, probably not.
Right. Okay. So it's perhaps not male, male, but it could be male, female, or female, male, or female, female.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So what would a man call a man?
Mara.
Mara. Now that's the one I was going to ask you about, actually. Mara. Would you ever hear that?
I think that's quite old. I think it's probably. I don't think you hear it very often.
Right, yeah. I mean, I learned that from a student from the Northeast a few years ago. He used Mara. I'd not come across it before, but that's one, yeah.
It was certainly, at least in the songs that I wrote about, it was certainly common in the songs from
right. So it's one with a long history. Mara, or just man.
You probably say mate.
Mate, right.
Would be better than Mara.
Yeah, I think mate.
And is Howay, is that a kind of greeting, or is it, what exactly is Howay used for?
More of an instruction, possibly, or a command. Or they do say Howay the lads for the football.
And what do they mean when they say that?
Come on.
Oh, I see.
It's quite was it patriotic to Newcastle.
Right.
But it's more of a command. So if I said, Howay Richard, it'd be, come on.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yes. An encouragement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Protest, actually. If someone does something you don't want,
right.
You might say, Howay?
Yeah.
It depends on the tone.
Yes.
Nice.
Right. Well, that would be really good. And thank you for sharing your knowledge of the words. We've talked about vocabulary. And we're going to go on in a minute to talk about pronunciation. I just wanted to just touch on a couple of words that I'm aware of, or forms that I'm aware of, that kind of fall into the category of, I think, more morphology of the dialect. They clearly are equivalent to the same words in other dialects of English, but they take a different form in Geordie. The ones I've got particularly in mind are gan instead of go, war instead of our, divant instead of don't, and are instead of I. Do you feel you use any of those? I mean, I think you both kind of say are instead of I, don't you?
Yeah.
Yes. Just mean I or I'm going.
What about gan then?
Depends who I'm with.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say, I'm going to gan the shop. Does anyone want out?
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that like,
so when you go back up north.
Yeah.
Then you might find yourself saying it.
Yeah, definitely.
And would that be the same for war as well? As in, I mean, the most famous expression with there is war Jackie. The old Jackie Milburn, the footballer.
Yeah. I think it often gets used for family members, or it certainly did. So if you were saying, I don't know, I'm just making up a name. I don't have a brother called Robert, but you might say War Robert.
Yeah.
War Rob.
Yeah.
If you were referring to a brother.
Yeah, just the same way as they might say our Ben.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've never said war ever.
Right.
Or at my house, we don't say that, but we do say our a lot. So, I mean, even to my friends, I say, oh, our Annie, which is my sister.
So what you're doing there is you're saying our as 2 syllables.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So that brings us very neatly onto the question of pronunciation, because I thought obviously there are a lot of aspects of Geordie where it's the way you say the words. It's not the words themselves which are particularly different. This was particularly noticeable, I thought, or it could be noticed in Bridget Phillipson's acceptance speech on the night of the election. Obviously, she was speaking standard English.
Mm-hmm.
The whole eyes of the world were on her, and she didn't come out with any kind of dialect expressions. So she kind of fulfilled that, what people often say, that standard English is a dialect which can be spoken with any accent.
Mm-hmm.
And she was speaking it with a mild Geordie accent. And there's a few things she did that were kind of noticeable. That the one that was most noticeable to me was she pronounced some words as 2 syllables, which I would pronounce as 1.
Yeah.
So she said, "We want to make sure," the Labour government, whatever. And she said, "Keir Starmer," as opposed to, I would say, Keir Starmer. So she definite 2 syllables on his name, which was quite an interesting one. So that to me is one feature on that sound or our sound, a tendency to sort of make it into 2 syllables. Do you notice yourself doing that?
All the time.
Right.
I get absolutely rinsed for the way I say film.
Ah, yeah.
I've never said film. It just doesn't work. It's always fun.
I could say film. I've just done it.
You definitely say film as well.
I'd probably have said film. Yeah. Maybe I do say film now. No, I've been using my accent gradually over the years.
Right.
It's not something I've tried to do. It just happens.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So that's the one for me, adding extra syllables.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just interested, how would you say the word school?
School.
Yeah, it's like 2, that school.
School. What about you, Rod?
How would you say school?
School. So you got one there. Yeah.
And book, not book.
Yes. So that's coming on to another spectrum. So the first one we've got is the making more than 1 syllable, which I like. And I suppose you could even put a positive spin on that, and you could say it's like kind of getting more out of the word.
Yeah. I've got an anecdote, a really good one to tell you.
Yeah.
So I used to live in a house share, and it was called Moor, spelled Moor. But because of my accent, I always say it in 2 parts, so Moor rather than more. Or, Thomas Moore, I say Thomas Moore.
Yeah.
And I rang and there was some electric problems and the lady could not understand. She said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have anywhere called Moor." Spell it out.
Right. Ben, you were going to pick up another accent feature.
Yeah, the one that I hear a lot and just I can't seem to fathom it is your O's. So if you have 2 O's next to each other, it's always oon. So like you've said it before to me, Rod, when you go gan doon the tune.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oo pronunciation for the ow.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the receipt pronunciation. So down, town, out, about, or realised traditionally in Geordie as doon, toon,
Right.
oot.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a great vowel shift thing, isn't it? Partly it's the other parts of the country have taken that oo and gradually turned it into ow.
Yeah.
What's going on in Geordie is more original. There's more the earlier form, isn't it?
Yeah, it's called by linguists, unshifted oo.
Right, okay, yeah. Does it apply to all words that are spelled OW? I mean, so tune, we all know that one because that's even very popular with the sort of label for the football team, isn't it? But do you say doon or down?
Doon, but I mean, I'd probably more usually say down, and I think
Yeah.
a lot of Geordies would. These kind of pronunciations are pretty recessive, but it has been argued that because the oo, particularly in the word tune, is iconic and is linked to the idea of the tune, which is Newcastle, that has helped to preserve it.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Yeah.
One thing, I think they are recessive, but and I suspect that a lot more of them used to be the oo. Historically, I did once hear my mother pronounce cow as coo.
Right.
That was you closer to the.
Yeah. And that would be Scottish as well, wouldn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Are there any other features of pronunciation that you yourselves are conscious of? We've got that one of the more oo sounds, and we've had the one of the extending the number of syllables. Are there others that you're aware of that are sort of particular?
I find it hard sometimes to say certain letters or sounding letters together. So things like yak, I just don't feel like I can pronounce it very clearly, like yakkers. I'm really trying hard to be clear, but it just kind of comes out as a noise.
So is that because, I mean, another thing, this in my research is a list of some features. One is glottal stop in quite a lot of things. So it's sort of, I mean, I noticed this in what Bridget Phillipson said.
I mean, the worst word to say is mocker.
Right.
Never ask for it. I'm going to say a mocker. Never ask for one because it just doesn't come out of my mouth, so I'll never get one.
Right. So because he's trying to say, makes a sound.
If I say, "Oh, can I have a mocker?"
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Because there's definite glottal stop there.
Yeah. It's really hard to pronounce.
No.
And one pronunciation we haven't mentioned is reet for right, or reet for all right, or neat for night. And that's another one that would possibly be retained a little bit because of the iconic status of the Friday night. It's Friday night,
Right?
Which is sort of like our Geordie saying we really ought to be going down to the pub, chaps. And they are pronunciations. So you do still hear.
Yeah.
It's like really weird that you're mentioning this because I'm like at this point having like a little epiphany that these are things that to me in my like growing up have just been normal. Like I would say at home, I would say alright, but I've always thought that was like sort of a Yorkshire thing, but it isn't. Now that you're pointing it out to me, like we just say you're right, but I do at home say you're right to my mum, and then I do say like divanar to her. Even though I'm not from Newcastle and have barely ever been there.
What about this, Rod? How would you pronounce the word Gateshead?
Gateshead.
Right.
There's a little bit of like an E before the A there. It's like...
On Spain.
Spain. Hang on. Let me try that again. Was I just...
Put you on the spot. You were right performing a Geordie stylisation there.
The same... I've certainly, I still retain some of that
that
goes before.
Which is another thing that is sometimes mentioned.
And a long time ago, in more traditional Geordie, you'd certainly have someone who would bake a cake.
Right. Bake a cake. Yeah. That's interesting. That explains a little. One of my children's teachers used to say, instead of school, she would say skewel.
Skewel.
And she would even kind of put a bit of a y into between the k and the u there, which I think that perhaps I can't remember if she was Geordie or not, but perhaps that is the same kind of film.
I think again, if you go back, historically and even back to the 19th century, I think you did have words like school and fool pronounced skill and fuel, and also in words like stone and soap, Stian and Sia.
Right.
Them pronounced that way.
Thank you very much for allowing your accent to be cross-examined in that way. Now, we were just going on to the kind of more general questions, just for briefly. I think we've sort of talked about the question of perhaps why it seems popular, but I think, Ben, you were going to ask a related question.
Yeah, so the main question that I had was, do you think that the reason the accent has become so popular is through like media, through all these like people who are in the media who have a predominant Geordie accent? And do you reckon that has any influence on what you were saying earlier, Rod, about the warmth and the ratings? Do you think that those people have something to do with those numbers and why they're so high?
That's interesting. I mean, certainly in any case, you get northern accents where there is this field of study called language attitude study, and northern accents in general do often get rated higher for warmth, perhaps also bluntness. But obviously we do live in the age of the mass media, and perhaps that does increase the sense of warmth. You know, if you repeatedly see on the TV people represented who seem friendly or who are entertainers or comic, then those associations will be built up between the accent and particular behaviours. And so, yes, I think there is certainly that element of it.
Yeah, it's a hard one because I think it just depends who you talk to, really, and how many compliments they're willing to give your accent and stuff. But maybe because Sam Fender's quite up and coming, that might help. But I really don't. I don't know. I really don't.
And like by extension to that, I know you have also mentioned this, Rod. Is it changing the accent? Is it?
I think yes. I mean, I think in general, local and regional accents are undergoing something called dialect leveling, so that you get a more widespread, less localized pronunciation. However, there are those kind of iconic features, such as tune and dune,
and canny.
yes, which perhaps get retained more. But we have to remember that language is always changing and that features do disappear. I mean, one word that I don't think we've mentioned is hinny. Ultimately, it's an endearment, but ultimately it meant honey, or it was derived from honey.
Yeah.
Now, back in the 19th century, hinny along with canny were the two words that were most warmly regarded. You know, they were regarded as the most iconic of the words. In fact, there was a song, "Where Hast Thou Been, My Canny Hinny?" You know, which brought them both together. "Where hast thou been, my canny hinny, and where hast thou been, my bonny Ben?" Again, that's bringing in Ben as well. You know, really kind of homely, really sort of familiar, used in a really fond way.
Yeah.
Even the term bonny has its like connections to like Scotland and things like that. Same with Ben, like you know, means good looking, doesn't it, bonny?
Yes, yeah.
It's funny you should say that. When I was doing my undergraduate here, another student thought I was Scottish for about 2 years. He didn't click on that I was from the northeast.
So he didn't click on that. You said interesting. For there with that on. Do you think it's changing very much?
Yeah, I do think
it changes when you go back and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are losing it a little bit. The accent, not anything. So I think people do tend to retain those kind of typical, even attributes about being a Geordie. You know, tan, no coat.
Right.
Likes a drink. But in terms of language, I do think it might be going a little bit, so hopefully people start sticking to their accent a bit more.
So that's been great. Thank you very much indeed for contributing all your observations and experience and ideas and questions. And we were just having a little conversation just now about what is the appropriate Geordie way to say goodbye. You don't seem to have a really clear answer. Rod, what was yours?
Well, I grew up always saying ta-da.
Ta-da, ta-da. What about you, Lucy?
We'd probably say ta-ra.
Ta-ra.
Yeah.
Which is what we actually said at the end of D is for dialect as well.
Yeah, my mum is big on a ta-ra pet.
Ta-ra pet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll thank you very much. And I'll say, see you later is another one. Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you. And we will be back. Our next letter of the alphabet is H, and that is H is for historical linguistics. And so I hope I will see you later. Thank you.
You can find out more about English at Leeds Trinity from the Leeds Trinity University website, www.leedstrinity.ac.uk, and also from our @Leeds Trinity channel on YouTube. Thank you for listening, and thank you to Steve Oxon and FesleyanStudios.com for this music, which is called Rio After Dark.